Roger Rogerson, the former police officer, stands as one of the clearest examples of how public trust in law enforcement can rise and then collapse. Once a decorated detective and a celebrated pillar of the New South Wales Police Force, he was recognized for outstanding policemanship and devotion to duty. Yet, his legacy would ultimately be one of betrayal, corruption, and, finally, a conviction for murder. This is the story of that final, devastating chapter, the cold-blooded killing of a 20-year-old university student, Jamie Gao, and the extraordinary journey of a celebrated figure to the dock of a criminal court. Roger Caleb Rogerson joined the New South Wales Police Force in the 1950s, a time when the lines between officers and the criminal underworld in Sydney were, by contemporary accounts, significantly blurred. By the 1970s and early 80s, Rogerson was a household name. He was a star operative, involved in some of the decade's most high-profile investigations. His reputation among colleagues was legendary, earning him over a dozen commendations for bravery and exceptional service. However, beneath the commendations, a shadow of alleged corruption was beginning to lengthen. Contemporary reports and later investigations, such as the Wood Royal Commission, would suggest that this era of policing was riddled with systemic issues, enabling some officers to engage in illicit activities. The first significant incident to publicly challenge Rogerson's credibility occurred in 1981, involving the fatal shooting of a man named Warren Lanfranchi. Rogerson claimed the shooting was in the line of duty, a necessary act of self-defense. While Rogerson was exonerated by a subsequent inquest, the incident generated intense public debate. Crucially, Lanfranchi's partner, Sally Ann Huckstep, publicly accused Rogerson of being a corrupt figure who had intentionally killed Lanfranchi. These claims, though unproven in court, ignited a persistent media narrative of a policeman operating outside the bounds of the law. Sally Ann Huckstep was found murdered in 1986, a death which generated further speculation regarding the reach of alleged corruption. This was followed by an alleged attempt on the life of another detective, Michael Drury, in 1984. Drury claimed Rogerson had tried to bribe him to tamper with evidence in a significant prohibited substances case. When Drury refused, he was shot in front of his family in a professional targeted attack, but miraculously survived the attempt on his life. Rogerson was charged with conspiring to murder Drury, but was acquitted in 1989. The acquittal did little to dampen the widespread speculation surrounding his involvement. The mere fact that one celebrated detective was being accused of attempted murder by a fellow officer underscored the depth of the alleged moral collapse within the force. Crucially, Rogerson also faced criminal proceedings regarding his professional conduct and received his first conviction in 1985 for involvement in drug dealing. This charge alleged he conspired with Melbourne criminal figure Dennis Allen, a major player in the illicit heroin trade, to supply the prohibited substance. Although Rogerson's conviction was later overturned on appeal, the case firmly linked the decorated detective to high-level interstate organized crime and drug trafficking. Rogerson was eventually dismissed from the police force in 1986. Following his police career, he faced further legal issues, including convictions for perverting the course of justice in the 1990s and later for lying to the Police Integrity Commission. He served multiple prison sentences. His former glory faded, replaced by the notoriety of a disgraced ex-detective. By the early 2010s, Rogerson was a man with a heavy criminal past, a stark contrast to the decorated hero of decades past. The foundation was laid for the confrontation that would define the end of his life, the meeting with Jamie Gao. Jamie Gao was a young man of 20, a university student studying business in Sydney. Like many individuals on the periphery of criminal networks, he was involved in the distribution of prohibited substances. According to the evidence presented at trial, Gao was attempting to facilitate a major transaction involving a substantial quantity of methamphetamine, often referred to as ice. The estimated weight was approximately 2.78 kilograms. It was this supply, valued by the prosecution at a significant monetary figure, that drew the attention of the two former police detectives, Roger Rogerson and his co-accused, Glen McNamara. At the time of the crime in 2014, Rogerson was 72 and McNamara 64, both seniors with decades of experience behind them. McNamara was also a former New South Wales police detective who had known Rogerson professionally. In the years leading up to 2014, the two men had developed a close association. The prosecution would later allege that Rogerson and McNamara, driven by financial greed, meticulously planned to lure Gao to a secluded location, forcibly seize the prohibited substances, and eliminate the only witness to their crime. It was a joint criminal enterprise, planned well in advance of the final meeting. The site selected for this clandestine meeting was Storage Unit 803 at the Padstow Rent-a-Space storage facility in Sydney's southwest. The date was May 20th, 2014. The location was chosen for its isolation and its inherent lack of visibility, features that the former law enforcement officers would have instinctively understood. The sequence of events on that day was reconstructed using crucial pieces of evidence, most notably CCTV footage captured by the storage facility's security system. The video recordings placed both Rogerson and McNamara at the facility, confirming their presence and their actions leading up to and immediately following the critical moment. Glen McNamara was captured on film arriving at the storage unit with Jamie Gao. The prosecution detailed that Gao was carrying a bag containing the estimated 2.78 kilograms of prohibited substance. Moments later, the CCTV footage shows Roger Rogerson arriving at the unit. The three men, two former detectives and the young student, entered the confined space of Storage Unit 803. What happened inside the unit would become the central and highly disputed focus of the subsequent legal proceedings. The prosecution asserted that shortly after entering, Jaime Gao was shot fatally. The jury would ultimately conclude that the murder was committed to secure the haul of prohibited substances. The final image captured by the security camera, a chilling testament to the crime, showed Rogerson and McNamara carrying a surfboard bag out of the storage unit. The bag, the prosecution argued, contained the body of Jaime Gao, along with the substantial quantity of the prohibited substance. This act marked the point of no return for the two men, transforming their alleged conspiracy into a completed capital offense. Following the incident inside Storage Unit 803, the primary objective for Roger Rogerson and Glen McNamara was the disposal of the body and the destruction of all evidence. The surfboard bag, now holding the victim, was loaded into a vehicle and driven from the scene. The cover-up was an attempt to make Jaime Gao vanish without a trace. The disposal method chosen was the ocean. The prosecution outlined how the body, allegedly weighed down by heavy materials to ensure it would not surface, was taken to sea off the coast near Cronulla, south of Sydney, and deliberately submerged. This plan demonstrated an extensive level of calculated forethought, betraying a chilling composure in the aftermath of the violent act. The assumption, presumably, was that the vastness of the ocean would conceal their crime forever. For 6 days, Jaime Gao was officially classified as a missing person. His family and friends, unaware of the grim details, desperately sought information about his whereabouts. The police investigation began to focus on the last known movements of the student, an effort that quickly led them to the Padstow storage facility and the existence of the critical CCTV footage. The following image shows evidence from a crime scene. Viewer discretion is advised. The breakthrough came 6 days after the murder. On May 26, 2014, fishermen operating off the coast near Cronulla made a shocking discovery. A body, wrapped in a large covering, had surfaced. The subsequent police recovery and forensic analysis confirmed the worst fears of Jaime Gao's family. It was the body of the missing student. Furthermore, the recovery provided key evidence linking the disposal to the two former detectives. The pressure on Rogerson and McNamara intensified rapidly. With the recovery of the body and the existence of the damning CCTV evidence, the police moved swiftly. Glen McNamara was arrested first. During questioning, he began to provide his version of events, one which dramatically and immediately contradicted the evidence gathered by investigators and placed the primary responsibility for the fatal shooting squarely on his co-accused, Roger Rogerson. McNamara asserted that the meeting was originally for a different purpose, unrelated to theft or murder, and that it was Rogerson who had become violent, discharging a firearm and killing the young man. McNamara claimed he was then threatened and coerced into helping dispose of the body, acting out of fear for his own life and the safety of his family. Roger Rogerson was arrested shortly thereafter. His defense was equally sensational. He completely denied having fired the shots or having any initial knowledge of a murder plot. Rogerson testified that when he arrived at the storage unit, he found Gao already fatally injured on the floor. He claimed that McNamara told him a struggle had ensued, during which Gao was shot with his own weapon. Rogerson, like McNamara, claimed he had then been compelled to assist in the disposal, albeit claiming less direct involvement than McNamara alleged. The two former friends, now co-accused in a serious violent offense, had turned on each other, each constructing a defense that painted the other as the sole perpetrator. This dramatic, cutthroat defense strategy became the defining characteristic of the ensuing trial. The police, however, presented evidence to the court suggesting that both men were involved in the planning and execution of the crime. Evidence included the extensive planning that went into the meeting, the coordinated nature of their movements captured on camera, and the forensic finding of gunshot residue on Rogerson's clothing, though the latter was not deemed conclusive enough by the judge to prove he was the one who fired the fatal shot. The overwhelming conclusion by the authorities was that the motive was the acquisition of the prohibited substances for profit. The proceedings unfolded over 4 months, a period of dramatic testimony and highly technical forensic analysis. The central task for the jury was to reconcile the two radically different accounts of the events inside Storage Unit 803. On one side, McNamara claimed Rogerson was the shooter, acting with cold intent. On the other, Rogerson claimed McNamara was responsible for the fatal injury and had fabricated the story to evade accountability. The prosecution, led by Christopher Maxwell QC, maintained a consistent line of argument that regardless of which man pulled the trigger, both Rogerson and McNamara were part of a joint criminal enterprise. The intention, the Crown argued, was to ambush Jaime Gao, steal the substantial quantity of methamphetamine he was carrying, and then dispose of the evidence, including the victim, to prevent discovery. In a statement presented during the sentencing phase, the Crown argued there was no distinction between a contract killing and a killing for financial gain. After a protracted period of deliberation, the jury of 7 men and 5 women returned their unanimous verdicts on June 15, 2016. Both Roger Rogerson and Glen McNamara were found guilty of the murder of Jamie Gao. They were also found guilty of the charge of commercial supply of the prohibited substance, accepting the prosecution's central allegation that they intended to unlawfully seize the 2.78 kilograms of drugs. The verdict marked a seismic moment in Australian criminal history. 2 former police officers, once symbols of law and order, were now convicted of the most serious crime, concluding their professional lives with infamy. The jury had clearly rejected the defense narratives of coercion and self-defense, finding that the entire operation was a calculated and predatory act driven by greed. On September 2, 2016, both Roger Rogerson and Glen McNamara were sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of Jamie Gao. This sentence reflected the extraordinary gravity of the crime, a calculated act of violence by 2 individuals who had previously sworn an oath to uphold the law, against a young man whose life was cut short for financial profit. The final conviction of Roger Rogerson brought a dramatic end to a life that had spanned both sides of the criminal justice system. His career transitioned from a celebrated police operative to a notorious figure implicated in historical allegations of serious violent offenses to a convicted murderer. The trial served as a final definitive judgment on the man who was once viewed as a potential future police commissioner. His ultimate conviction for the murder of Jaime Gao along with the charge of commercial drug supply rendered his downfall complete. Roger Rogerson died in prison on January 21, 2024, at the age of 83. He never expressed remorse for the murder of Jaime Gao. The decorated detective who once symbolized law and order spent his final years in Long Bay Prison, his legacy forever defined not by the commendations on his wall, but by the young man he killed in a storage unit for profit. The case stands as a final symbolic reckoning for a deeply troubled era of policing, a stark reminder that no badge, no matter how decorated, grants immunity from justice.